You said you might know who put down Fame.
Got an idea, yeah. I ain't 100%.
Speak.
Now, I did mention in my last breakdown I was going to take a day or two break, but I would be on hand just in case they did drop something new, because I did have a sneaky suspicion they just might, and they did over on social media not too long ago. This is an exclusive for episode 408. It's a conversation between Kanan and Juke while they're at the cafe, which actually follows on from the little tease we got from the trailer for episode 8. So, in this breakdown, we're going to take a look at this exclusive, run through the conversation, what could potentially follow, and just some general questions and thoughts around what next for Juke and Kanan in terms of this whole situation regarding Fame. It's a very complex puzzle, which I don't think anybody's been able to solve yet, but hopefully we do get some more answers in episode 8, because I certainly don't believe it was Rock. I think they're making us look in her direction, making Kanan look in her direction, and then they're going to hit us with something completely unexpected. Let's see. But in terms of this conversation, let's hear Jukebox's response.
Hell nah. Nah, Rob would never. You just hate because you mad that she
I
did
know
all.
you was gonna say I'm wrong, but just hear me out.
Now listen, there's no fucking way.
Now, just before we kind of dive into this conversation, as a very quick reminder, towards the end of 407, Kanan was on the hunt for OC, but he actually came across Rock giving these two police officers an envelope. Earlier on in the episode, we also had Jukebox mention that it had to be law enforcement, but that hit still would have been called from the streets. Now, I always believe Kanan was jumping a bit too far with his assumptions, and I still am. These are the same two cops that were forcing her to pay up, and the same two officers that were causing her trouble back in season 3. But the problem is, Rock's reputation is absolutely torn to shreds. So honestly, we really can't blame Kanan for thinking that it was Rock, or she did have something to do with it.
Rock loved Fame.
She loved D Wiz too. Look what she did to D.
In this conversation with Juke, she presses him to tell him about his theory, and he tells Juke it's Rock. Now, Juke's instant reaction is, there is no way. Rock would never do that to Fame because she loved Fame. Famous was basically a part of their family. There's no way she would ever do that to Fame. But on a quick side note, before we kind of continue with this conversation, the wardrobe department did a really good job here during this conversation, and some of you may have spotted why. If you didn't, it's the necklace around Jukebox's neck. While Kanan's telling her that Rock was behind Famous's death, she's actually wearing the necklace that was actually a gift from Rock back in season 3, just before her audition. So, I did think it was a really nice touch. At the same time Juke is learning, Rock may have been behind the death of one of her best friends. Now, Kanan does make a very valid point, and actually a point we kind of went through when we went through our latest investigation in terms of what happened to Fame. One of our points in our chapter where we looked at the arguments for Rock calling the hit was the fact she's done it before. You look at the situation with D Wiz back in season 1 and how she called a hit on one of Kanan's best friends. She is capable of doing exactly what Kanan's accusing her of. But I do want to go back to Rock's reputation and how she's been accused of a lot of things that she's not actually done recently. Recently, she's had a lot of blame thrown in her direction. And for this particular murder, the way it's happened in terms of Famous apparently being tortured, I really don't believe Rock would ever have Famous tortured. As I mentioned before in my previous investigation, you'd only have someone tortured if you're trying to extract information from them. And why would Rock have Famous tortured? What information would Rock want? But in terms of this conversation, I still don't think Juke is going to believe it. And Kanan does kind of admit he's not 100% sure. I personally think he is jumping to conclusions. And I think once Juke does think about it a bit more, I think she's going to tell Kanan he is going to have to get more information than just seeing Rock paying off some law enforcement officers. I mean, it was back in season 1 where Rock had a conversation with Juke, where she told her that sometimes it isn't a bad idea to have friends in law enforcement. I think Kanan's thinking from a perspective where he's been manipulated and lied to over and over again by Rock. It's kind of swaying his judgment and making him jump to conclusions. Whereas with Juke, I think she's going to provide Kanan with an alternative perspective, or at least make him think a bit more before they act, before they jump to this conclusion. Now, the final point from this conversation, we're going to keep it quite short and sweet because it's only a 30-second conversation. The final point I do want to touch on, how will this impact the relationship between Rock and Juke? And the fact that we do have Juke wearing the necklace that Rock gave her in this particular conversation, it really does highlight the relationship they have. Jukebox and Rock really do have a special relationship, very different compared to the rest of the Thomases. If Rock was behind Famous's murder, it's going to change a whole lot. Definitely will. But from this conversation, I do think Kanan makes a very good point in terms of what she did to D Wiz. Although I still don't think it's going to be enough to convince Juke. I think she's going to tell Kanan he needs more. He needs to be 100% sure. There can't be a single doubt in terms of the accusation he's making. And I do think she's going to tell him go back to the drawing board, get back to the streets, go find some more answers. Maybe Juke will go with him and they start doing their kind of own investigations and doing their own digging. Maybe Juke may even start to ask Rock some very subtle questions to get the feel of her answers, to see how she responds, her demeanor, whether she catches her on a lie or whether she kind of gets the feel where she's not telling the full truth. I do think they do need a bit more, and I'm sure we're probably going to get one step closer in episode 408. But with that being said, that's the exclusive for season 4, episode 8. Let me know what you think in the comment section in terms of what's next. What's going to be Juke and Kanan's next move? Drop all your thoughts down below in the comment section, and as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.